All right. Great morning, superstars. How is everyone doing out there this morning? Welcome to another fantastic and amazing episode of Social Media Saturdays. And today I'm super excited for our broadcast. I am sitting down with special guest Howard White, none other than the business growth coach. And today we're going to have an amazing conversation around the power of planning. And so I'd like to start off by asking the question, if you're out there and watching, do you have a vision that is worthy of your life? And this is one of the things that I'm super excited that I have people who are in my corner, Howard White being one of them, that challenges me to craft a vision so big that it's worthy of my life. And so if you're out there and you're watching, that's the question that I have for you this morning. Do you have a vision that is worthy of your life? And if you do, I want you to go ahead and put that into the comment section. I have a vision that is worthy of my life. And the second question that we're going to unpeel a little bit are the things that you are doing on a daily basis, are they pulling you towards your goals? Okay. So this is for you if you are out there and you are a coach, you're a consultant, you're an entrepreneur, or even a small business owner, and you are looking to accelerate to your next level. And this is also for you if you're feeling stuck or you're unhappy with the way things are going, either in your business or how they're going in your life, and you desire to have a change. And this is also for you if you want to live your life. And I think, Howard, we said that we was going to borrow this from Delatoro McNeil, right? If you want to live your life full throttle, if you want to put your foot down to the pedal, to the metal,
Right.
and get things going, this is definitely for you. Okay. So before we jump into our conversation this morning, I am going to check to see who is out there. And I see that Suzanne is out there this morning. And she says, yes, she has a vision that is worthy of her life. Great morning, Suzanne. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us this morning. So if you are out there and you are watching, do me a favor, drop a comment into the comment section. We do this every Saturday for Social Media Saturdays. Let me know where you're watching from. That's the first thing, where you're watching from. And then also in the comment section, put who do you serve in your business? How do you serve in your business, and where we can connect with you? Okay. So where you're watching from, who do you serve in your business? How do you serve in your business, and how we can connect with you? Because one of the amazing things that happens here, Howard, on Social Media Saturdays is the virtual networking. So I love to see the networking that happens when we're on live, but also it's so amazing to go back during the week and see how people are connecting in our community during the week. Okay, so you don't want to miss the opportunity to connect. Okay. Now, I'm also going to ask you, because this is going to be a very powerful conversation today. So I'm going to ask you to take a minute to share out this broadcast. Okay. So my mom always taught me not to be stingy. So I'm going to say, look below the video. You're going to see the share button. Go ahead and hit share and share this out to your network. Invite 5 other entrepreneurs that you know this morning who could benefit from receiving the information that we're going to share with today, which we're going to talk about the power of planning. Okay, so I am Taria Hodge, and welcome to Serve, Share, Shine, real social media strategies to fuel your business. And I'm stepping from behind the scenes to help coaches, consultants, and thought leaders get their authentic and vulnerable message into the marketplace. So that's what we do here on Social Media Saturdays. And sitting to my right, I have none other than Howard White, business growth coach, and he's also the founder of HBCU Biz. And like I mentioned before, we are unpacking the power of planning and what it takes not just to have your best week ever. I love this is one of the things that Howard does. He has a community that's called Have Your Best Week Ever. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about not only what it takes to have your best week ever, but what it takes, to have your best year ever. And I see that Noreen is out there this morning. Great morning, Noreen. How are you? And Noreen is watching from Greensboro, North Carolina. And we could connect with Noreen at blackfitandsingle.com. Great morning, Noreen. And yes, I do owe you a call, my dear. Okay. And so before we jump in to our meat and potatoes, our topic, of the day, I have two special announcements that I just want to put out there and, get it out the way so I don't forget. The first announcement is we are actually doing our Magnetize and Monetize the Virtual Stage live training today. So for those of you who are out there, you're watching, you've heard Suzanne and I talk about Magnetize and Monetize the Virtual Stage, but you have not registered and secured your seat for the live training, you still have time to do so. And that live training happens today, March 20th at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So right after social media Saturdays, we're going into the Magnetize and Monetize the Virtual Stage live training. So if you have not as yet secured your seats, okay, I think I just put the banner across the screen. Okay, so it's scrolling. Good. Okay, and the link is also in the description of the video. Okay, so there's still time for you to register if you want to join us. And then also, second announcement, I'm sitting down with this handsome gentleman because he also has something amazing coming up next week, which is the HBCU Biz Conference, where how would you have the opportunity to share of the conference or share about the conference later on in the broadcast. So I can't wait to sit and unpack this conversation with you this morning. And I see that Sharon is out there this morning. Great morning, Sharon. And Sharon is hailing all the way from Maryland, and she's serving the next generation of professionals and established professionals who want to learn from their history to uplift others. And Sharon is the founder of Rosa. So thank you, Sharon, for tuning in and joining us this morning, and also putting your link where we can connect with you. And I have to say, I see that Sharon is out there. She is doing some amazing things. And I know that you have your event today, my dear. So I'm wishing you all the best on your event as well. Okay. And so Peg Duchesney is out there this morning, and Peg is saying that she has registered for the Magnetize and Monetize the Virtual Stage. Awesome, Peg. I am looking forward to seeing you on the live training today. Awesome. And also, Peg, if you know someone, okay, who would also benefit from the live training, go ahead and share the link with them as well. Okay. We always have room for more. Okay. So, Howard,
Yes.
we're getting ready to unpack this story, this conversation, right, of the power of planning. And I always get excited talking about this particular topic because I take a look at where I was and where I am now in terms to goal setting and what it really takes to achieve the goals or achieve your goals. Okay. And so I'm going to start off by, talking a little bit about, my story when it comes to goal setting. Okay. And, I don't know how many of my superstars have ever heard me say this, but I know this is something that you and I, we've been in conversation for the years, right? That we've known each other. And it's one of the things that I have to say that I just sit in gratitude, right, for being able to collaborate, work with you, and have you as part, of my locking arms. I talk about finding the people that you lock arms with, right? And it's goal setting. So I've been that entrepreneur on the journey who at times been very frustrated when it comes to goal setting, right? Or achieving goals. And it seemed to me like for years, I was setting the same goal, over and over and not hitting the goals, right?
Yeah.
And, it got to the point where I really started to ask myself, some serious questions. How is it that, you can set the same goal, over and over and not hit the goal? And I've gotten into conversations with people, and some say, well, Taria, the reason why you didn't hit your goal is because you didn't make your goal big enough. Right. So how many of you have heard that? Okay. The reason why you didn't hit your goal is because you didn't make your goal big enough. Right. And because it wasn't big enough when you didn't hit it, there was no real impact for you to feel because you missed the goal. Okay. And then so I started setting these big goals. Okay. And then still didn't hit the goals. All right. And then other people will say, well, no wonder you didn't hit the goal. You didn't hit the goal because the goal wasn't realistic. Okay. So it's too big. Maybe you want to, pare that goal down, right? And make that goal smaller. So I began to find myself kind of confused, like in the space, like what does it really take, for you to achieve your goals? And I have to say, it wasn't until I started to do some amazing work with, my coaches. So I work with you, I work with Suzanne Hart to really understand, right, this concept of setting goals and achieving goals. So, one of the things, Howard, that I would like for you to start us off with is that you shared with me, a concept that you have that's called be, do, have.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think that that's the first thing or the first place that I would like for us to start in our conversation today. What is this concept of be, do, have?
It's thanks a lot, Taria, and definitely we've known each other enough to know the ups and downs, the peaks and the valleys of that journey that you just talked about. And there are several pieces to it. And so, when you think about goal setting, I always say there are two pieces. There's the goal setting and there's the goal getting. But in between, there are the things that you have to do. But more importantly, the person you have to become and the habits you must develop in order to get. Okay. And that is the real foundation of the be, do, have, or behavior-based goal setting. So one of the things that I challenge you to do if you're listening today is ask yourself, what is one of those big, scary, audacious goals that, people always say, make those scary, audacious goals. I mean, why you gotta be scary? Okay. Why you gotta run from them? When I think of scary, I think I got to get in the closet and, but when you think about that, you ask yourself, in order for me to live this, in order for me to do that, who must I become? And that starts with the mindset, and you talked about connecting with people like Suzanne Hart, who helps with focus on that mindset, because that's the beginning. If you don't believe it, then you can't achieve it. It's a cliche, but it's the truth, because you must every day see yourself. I remember times when I talk about speaking, I would actually be on stages practicing if I was at a hotel, even though I wasn't the speaker. And I had one of the persons say, man, you sound better than the speaker they had last night. You in here. And so in my mind, I was already becoming that person. But then the next part is, what are the habits, what are the daily, weekly habits that you must do in order to achieve it? Because here's what happened. I do know I can control my daily habits easier than I can control a final outcome. Okay. And so there may be and I'll use a sales goal or a dollar goal. So as like HBCU biz, I'm planning for the conference. And when I look back at it, there are some things that I didn't do daily. I could have, or I had a team member to do. So I missed some opportunities that I can control. The ultimate amount of people that show up, I cannot control. But those things through the steps, so like before we got on this call, there are some things that I did that I had on my schedule. There are some things I got to do afterwards. I can control those a lot easier than I can control of how many show up. But I'll be thankful for who show up, okay? Because those are the right people. So whatever that goal is, Taria, is really those daily habits. You talk about the fitness journey, and congratulations on some things that you've done from that standpoint. But it was getting up, which you used to hate to get up.
Right?
6 or 7. Yeah, hate. I'm gonna use a strong word. Hate. Used to hate to get up before 6 or 7 in the morning because you were a late night person. Now, you
No,
connected
you
with the
have
right
known me
people.
that long, right?
So you connected with the right folks. You became different in the mindset. Started at about 100 feet in the air, and that's a whole nother story. Facing that fear.
It was 300 feet, by the way.
Oh gosh, I shortchanged you. God, okay, 300. And so when you think about that, you really became someone different, and you started doing things consistently that gave you a result. Was it 100% what you wanted? I don't know. Was it better than you wanted? Could have been. But either way, you were happy with the results versus if you had not done it. So that's the whole crux is just remember, whatever that goal is, you must become first who is that person that deserves that. And then ask yourself, what are the habits I must form? What are the daily things I must do, the weekly things I must do in order to achieve this goal? And when that happens, you're going to enjoy the journey because you're having success along the way versus waiting to that final destination to stop or not have it happen.
Yeah. So one of the things that, 2 things that I'm going to stop here and just kind of unpack because I want to make sure, that our superstars are out there and they're catching it this morning, right? So the first question is, asking yourself, who do you have to become? Right, in order to achieve your goals. And so sometimes when we take a look at, where we are in the current moment, we're not that person yet, right, to step into the goals. And so what is required? So do you is it that you're required to gain more knowledge, gain more expertise? Is it that you need to work on your mindset? Like, who are you required to become to be able to step into that goal? And I remember, when that question was posed to me, I thought it was a very interesting question because at the time the question was asked, I didn't know the answer. Right. And I was just like, oh, that's a very interesting question, but it's something that has always stuck with me. Right. And so as I take a look at these goals, right, that I have set for myself, and I look at the vision that I have crafted that's worthy, of my life, and I just love it. Right. That's almost like my calling card to keep me pushing. Right, to encourage me to grow and expand in many different ways. So that's the first thing that I just wanted to touch on. Okay, and then the second thing, and I hope the thought didn't leave in my head.
Let me say something there. I want to say it, and the key part is really that before you go out saying what must I learn, what must I do, is to having that mindset, because even if you go out and take the new courses, even if you go out and hire the new coaches, if these 5 to 7 inches, depending on how big your head is not right, guess what? It won't matter. Okay, been there, done that. And so it literally. I love the movie The Karate Kid. It's that the simple things, the simple process. Wax on, wax off. And he was developing the habit to defend himself. But first, Mr. Miyagi had to help him get through the mindset shift of, okay, I want to be able to defend myself. Okay, I am worthy. I am strong enough. I am big enough. And that's the first thing that has to happen with us all, is that we have to have that mindset shift first before you started gathering and developing the habits.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I had a second point, but my second point just went right out my mind. I'm hoping that it comes back, that it comes back to me because I wanted to expand on it
Well,
a little bit.
I want to give an example, if I could. I talk about HBCU Biz conference, but Sharon, and we will share more information on that as she asked about the conference, and actually give you some complimentary tickets to attend for your community. But it's really a community, and so as I've never developed a full community. I've been part of communities, and so when I started to look at it, my mindset has shifted. The people that I study from now are communities. And so I actually have times where I've spent time by myself speaking to my community in a big event where we're doing some community building things. Okay. And so that's already there. Will that manifest in a year? Will it manifest in 2 years? I don't know. But Howard has already become that person. And so now I ask myself, what must I do consistently? What must I do weekly? What must I set up in monthly? And that really is what I'm focused on. And, the powerful part, and we're going to get to this a little bit, is when you have that dynamic vision, when you have that shift in your mindset, those around you help serve you. Because, my wife now, even with the conference coming up, she said, "No, I don't want to put anything else on your plate until then," because that's where you have to stay focused.
Yeah.
People will text me, "Hey, is it okay to talk now? I know you're working on this." And so, when you get clear on it, others can be clear on how they can serve you also and help you live that goal and realize that vision. So that is something that's key, but it all starts with that mindset shift. And depending on where you are determines how big of a shift, how big of a challenge that part is.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because that's you're absolutely correct, right? Mindset is everything. And I think I remember what I wanted to share. One of the things that you mentioned that I think was so key, for me in understanding how to, not just set goals, but attain goals, go after them and attain them was exactly what you said, taking a look at the things that you could control and the things that you can't control. Right. And so I think that, for me, what it was a lot of times that, I'll go ahead and I'll set these goals or, I'll have these numbers or these things that are in front of me. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the end result. Right. So I'm looking at the number and not necessarily looking or focusing solely on my part. So I love that you said, what are the things, right, that I do on a daily basis that pulls me towards the goals? Okay, so sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes we are like I like to say, stretching over is like you're stretching over to reach, this stuff, but you're forgetting all of the stuff, right, that's in the middle. So stay focused on the things that that you're able to control.
Well, I like that analogy you give, but I want to add something else in there. We're so focused on the top shelf that we forget there's a ladder that could get us there sometimes. And we have to take those steps, okay, those daily steps, and they really become habits. And like when Peg says in the chat there, talking about daily, weekly, monthly goals to achievement, is Peg, one of the things that happens though is if you look at daily and weekly, they become habits. When you set that dedicated time to plan your week. So when you sit down, I'm a good planner and trying to get gooder. We talk about the power of the plan, but there's a guy I know, and he shared with me his process. He literally takes his calendar and he takes what he wants to get done that week, and he plugs everything in a time. He spent 3 hours on Sunday planning his week, and down to the T of, okay, I'm going to work 2 hours on this project. And so that's one of his habits. That's one of his weekly habits. And then, as one of my mentors says, you have a way of measuring and having someone hold you accountable. And so that becomes the other piece of it, being part of a group, being part of a community, as Taria said, locking arms with someone, because they can feel when you're that slight pull away. that slight shift in your habits, that slight shift in your patterns, and they can say, "Hey, is everything okay? Hey, you're falling off." And that's the power of true family. So you have community. Those are the neighbors that are part of your hood, if you would. But then family really know you. They can see that shift in your face. And so remember those things, those daily steps are really what gets you to that pinnacle. The one of the things I'm working on in 91 Day Year, Taria, and I don't know if I shared this with you. There's been God has really put this on my heart for a long time, and I've been sitting on it. It's really, how do you peak to peak living is what I call it.
Okay.
More so peak from pit to peak. And it's really about the story of Joseph. You think about this dream, this vision you had, and you don't fully understand it, but it keeps coming back. And it takes you to your presence. It takes you to a pit. And just when you think you're back in it, somebody falsely accused you of things happen. And, so it really is that's our journey, because once you hit one peak, we see a whole new territory that we set. Yeah. But we don't have this helicopter that just flies us right over to the next peak. We have to go through a valley.
Right. And I
would say one thing though, and then I'm gonna hop back over to you, is that remember, most growth happens in the valley. You don't see arches, you don't see crops growing on the side of the mountain, at the top of the mountain. You see small bushes. Okay. The real growth happens in the valley. So remember that. Embrace the valleys and determine the habits you must develop to help you traverse through the valley.
Yeah. And you know why I like that, Howard? Because like when the visual that you just painted, for me in my mind is everything, because then it's natural. So as we take a look at mountains, we take a look at peaks, right? So naturally you're at the top. And then there's another mountain or the other goal that you want to get to. But in order for you to leave from this space, it's like you have to travel down, right? Yeah. And so that's your valley, as you will, right? And once again, it goes back into, who do I have to become? And I look at that, as the place where I'm learning, I'm acquiring the skills, I'm getting all the things necessary that would allow me to go up the other side of the next peak. Right. Yeah. And then when you get to the top, there's always something else, for you to aspire to. Right. And it goes right back to, talking about, do you have that vision? Right. So as you're standing at the peak, are you adjusting your vision? Can you see more? Are you continuing to see more and more, for yourself that aspires you, to just keep, going? So I love that analogy, Howard.
Let me share something that I think will help some of the audience here when we talk about vision. We call it the dynamic growth vision, but I challenge you to step back a little further, and it's deeper, is really understanding your purpose. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so asking yourself, why was I created? What will be my legacy? And so when I think about that, for me, really my name is my purpose, helping others win and realize dreams. Helping others win and realize dollars. And then how is what I do. But when you think about that, is your purpose never changes.
Yeah.
You were created for a reason. And so now you ask yourself, what is that dynamic vision that will serve my purpose? You ask people to put who and what, but also challenge you to say why. Why do you serve people? Okay. And I'm an acronym junkie. So why stands for what helps you when you think about this journey. And so as you begin to ask yourself, why am I serving? Why do I want to do this? And when that becomes clear, it makes it easy to do the daily habits, because you're going to look to your why each day. Here's why I want to get fit. Here's why I want to develop my stories so I can serve more people and talk on the stage. Here's why I need to make these 10 calls per day, because I want to leave this for my great grandkids who I will never meet. Here's why. And so understanding that helps you live your purpose, but it also support those daily habits that you must develop. And that is the key. And that's part of what you've tapped into. When I think about, you being up at 300 feet, what really happened right before that you were in ICU with your granddaughter. So you
Mm-hmm.
see, you don't think about that process when you're going through the moment.
Yeah.
And, as you think about that being 300 feet in the jungles on a zip line, for those that don't know the story, touch bases with Taria to get the whole version of it. And so, but you had to be saying that, hey, yeah, I want to get down and live, but now what do I want for my granddaughter, my first grandchild?
Yeah.
And that why is bigger than just you.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. And this is such a good conversation, Howard. I'm taking a look at all of the comments and see that Barbara is out there this morning. Great morning, Barbara. Barbara is saying you gain strength in the valley through the
Yes.
struggle. And Patricia is saying this is so powerful, embracing your valley. That's uncomfortable territory. And it's true. Once you stay in, you grow. And when you get out of the valley, your growth will blow your mind. Isn't that awesome, Patricia? Right? It is like when we're going through the stuff, it's just like, oh my gosh, why do I have to go? Yeah, why do I have to go through this? But when you take a look at who you have become, when you come out on the other side, it prepares you, for the next thing, that you're going after. So, Howard, I want to, because we're right in the perfect space. One of the things that I wanted you to share on the broadcast, and now that we're talking about challenges, we're talking about peaks and valleys, I celebrate you because you did like an amazing thing in 2020. Okay. So for those of you out there who do not know Howard, this is your first time, being introduced to Howard, the business growth coach. One of the arms of business that Howard has, he has a retail store, right? And I literally watched Howard through the pandemic, through 2020, right? When the store got closed down because of the pandemic, shift into his greatness. That's what I'm going to call it, right? So can you share with us, Howard, what that process was like for you as you went through that valley, in that season of your life? I think it's such an awesome story. I wanted you to share it.
Yeah, so and I'm going to tie in also my story is and hopefully help Noreen there. She asked a question.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a family, what is your why? And so when I think about the pandemic hitting, and I can remember right around this time last year, I my physical store was closed for 30 days, and it was our second busiest season. So I for those that don't know, I have a collegiate store that sells mainly Southern University merchandise and Divine Nine fraternity and sorority merchandise. And so when I look at that I saw that, hey, football season may or may not happen, and I started listening, and I developed this phrase. I call it, through any pandemic or any challenge that you're facing, always do this. I want you to pause, pray, pivot, plan, and pursue. Okay, pause, pray,
Mm.
pivot, plan, and pursue.
I
That was
think
the
somebody
process.
needs to put that inside of the chat.
Okay, and so as you pause, it's taking a moment to look at the situation, assess the situation, and then wherever your faith is, you want to speak to that, because I'm a Christian, and faith says, really in Hebrews, that it's the substance of things not seen and the evidence of things. I'm sorry, evidence of things not seen,
Mhm.
you're hoping, but really you're taking a step forward because you're developing a plan. It's the substance, and your plan is the substance. And so your pivot is a shift. That pivot is just a moment in which you shift, and then you must develop the plan, and then you must pursue it. And that's what we did. So immediately, I can remember reaching out to some folks. Taria was one of them, and it was 5 of us eventually. I said, hey, let's do a conference in less than 2 months, totally virtual. 20 speakers or 22 speakers, I think is what we had, and all in one day. And it was like, hold up, how are we going to do that? We're going to pre-record? No, everything's live. And over 300 and some people registered, and 250 showed up. We all had a great time. We've learned new connections were forged through that, and out of that, since then we've been able to serve over 15 different organizations and entities hosting virtual events for them, from the likes of John Hopkins to various law schools around the country. And a lot of the things that really happened was a shift of saying, what you're currently doing, how do you take it virtual? And so it's really that has been, part of my shift. And through that, just as recent as yesterday, I was telling Taria, we hosted a law firm that has a community helping lawyers, elder lawyers. And so really I got in and I was an MC for 2 days, and MC an event, something I love doing, and a talent that I've developed because of the pandemic. Being able to do that, or you hearing people say the way in which we serve them, and it goes back to your why in serving, is that you made it easy for us. I remember a national recording artist we had behind the scenes. We coached him up. We say, hey man, you're going to be on screen 3 times. Okay, you got virtual background. You're going to have 3 different sets. Okay, one of them is an interview set. You're going to be on a couch in your office. Okay, and so he was like, and he played it up well. And they were, my client who had paid him, they was like, oh, he was so great. The way he changed this, and all I could do is just laugh. But it goes back to, once again, is your why. Number one is, part of my why is my family. And Noreen said that is that, Noreen, for some reason, God has chosen for you not to have a direct family of yours, but you do have a family. Family is that body of people that really embrace you, and you embrace at the deepest level. Okay. And so that's number one. But number two is started asking this question is, when I'm no longer here and the records are written, what will people say about Noreen Jackson? Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you want them to say? In your heart, what do you want them to say? So, 200 years from now, when I say Noreen Jackson did, Noreen Jackson was, I am because Noreen Jackson did. Finish that statement. And so when I look at, the changes and shifts I made during that season, I tied everything back into that. Yeah. One of the organizations I'm in, we have, take a program that was created to deliver in person, and literally spent probably about 200 hours working with them, some contractual, some given, donated, to shift those that program to where it could be 100% virtual. And so now we're about to launch that program to the world, and that's part of my why, serving others and working with you. So hopefully that helped a little bit, Noreen, and definitely think back to asking yourself, if you're a person of faith, why was I created? Why was I created? Why was I created? Just keep answering that question. Yeah. And one of the most powerful books is The Power of Purpose by Dr. Miles Monroe, the late Dr. Miles Monroe. And he will, that will help you a lot.
Yeah, I love it. And thank you, Noreen, for sharing, right? And I love that what you shared with Noreen is so powerful, because I remember years ago when I first heard you talking about writing your obituary. I what in the world is Howard talking about? Why would I do that? Right? But it made perfect sense, right? So at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, okay, what would be the things that you would want people to say, about you? And it all leads into significance, right? So we all want to make sure that, that we're living a life, of significance, a significant life where we're able to touch and impact others. And I see, yes, Noreen, we definitely will provide contact information for Mr. White before we end the broadcast. Okay, so thank you for that. And Patricia, thank you so much for dropping the notes in the comment section. I think you captured it perfectly. Is pause, pray, pivot, plan. And I think, Howard, your execute is pursue. Okay, so
Right.
thank you so much, Patricia, for putting that out there. And I see that Barbara is out there, says she loves Dr. Miles Monroe. What a prophet. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. And so, Howard, I'm just going to go ahead and just ask, like, what do you think is like the biggest challenge? I know we've been touching around it, right? So I'm just going to go back. What's the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs, you say, face when it comes to setting their goals?
Well, I think it is that setting the goals are not the challenge. It's really the developing the mindset and really the habits that are required to achieve them. I mean, when you break everything down into a granular level, it's really, Taria, it's saying, hey, let's peel back and say, well, what are those habits that have to happen?
Yeah.
If I'm working with someone saying I need to increase revenue, it's as simple as making the dials. It's
Yeah.
as simple as, first getting clear on, okay, who am I going to focus on? What the one or two vertical markets that I'm going to communicate to? And then, how many people do I need to touch a day? It may be 20. It may be 10. I don't know what that number is, but it is a number. And then as you think about your number, how can you first put that into a plan
Yeah.
and a process that later becomes a habit? And what a habit is harder not to do than to do. Okay. That's when it really becomes a habit. It's harder not to do than to do.
Yeah, isn't it interesting, right? Because I think that that's exactly what it is, right? And that's why I started off the conversation saying that I struggled like in the beginning because I didn't know that really and truly it all broke down to habits. Okay. And so as I take a look at the things that, I have, set forth for myself is consciously going into that place and saying, what's the daily habit that I could create around this? Okay. What's the daily habit? And incorporating these things into my life, and it becomes a process, right? And so, Howard, just getting up in the morning and reading, okay, for an hour, reading and journaling for an hour. I work in the space where content is everything. Okay. And I used to be that person, believe it or not, used to cry, pull out my hair every time I need to write something. I feel like I want to go lay down, right? And take a nap until I created a system that became so easy, for me to, what? This is how I'm going to produce content. This is how I'm going to do this, creating the habits. This is how I'm going to look at my health. What are the habits, that I have around my health? What are the habits, like you said? What are the habits that we have around our business? Okay. So if we know we have revenue and we have this revenue goal that we're going after, okay, what does it take? To get to the revenue goal, right? Is it that you're making calls? So on your calendar, what are the time frames that you have set on your calendar for reaching out, connecting, making phone calls? Okay, do you have a system in place? Do you have your automated scheduler set up where people could automatically get on your calendar? It's just things like that sometimes I think when we break it down, it becomes almost so simple, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, but it's so simple that we overlook it, right? And the more and more I'm learning, every day I smile because I say it to myself, success is the small things that we do consistently on a regular basis. That's the sum of success, is
Yeah.
those things that we do on a regular and consistent basis.
Well, I think it goes back to when we talk about goal setting, is being willing and able to track the daily habits, the daily outcomes. And, one of the things that we're adding to 91 day year is how do you, what are your, 12 things that you must do each day? And then you grade yourself on those. Okay? So they're your rules. So when I look over here, I got my personal rules. And so what are your personal rules? And then now, how are you playing every day? Are you playing at 70%, 80%, 100%? It's okay if it's 70% today, but you are looking at it each day. And so you're working to improve and move towards developing those habits and living those rules that you set for your life.
Yeah.
Not someone else.
Yeah. I love it.
Go ahead, Tarip.
No, I was saying I love it, right? And you said, and like you always say, when it comes to setting rules for your life, if you don't plan your week, then someone else is going to give you a week plan. That's I think that's always like my favorite statement or my favorite quote from you. So Howard, before we get ready to, kind of close it out and wrap it up, I didn't want to miss the opportunity for you to talk about the HBCU Biz Conference and what you have coming up next week.
No, definitely excited about it. And I saw a couple people looking back at the feed. I think Noreen was down in Greensboro, which is the home of North Carolina A&T. And Sharon's up in Maryland. There's a ton of HBCUs up there.
Yes.
But literally, we're looking at doing HBCU Biz Conference. And Terry, I don't know if you have the complimentary feed, because we are giving some complimentary tickets. One of our sponsors, Byron and Riley CPA, actually underwrote some tickets for people. And so I sent that to you in an email this morning, if you see it. But HBCU Biz was really born out of my journey. Been a business owner for over 20 years. This year, I would actually be in the same location for 20 years, okay? The same brick and mortar store for 20 years. And when I look at that, there's a lot of things I've done in the HBCU space. I was counting up, I'd been over to 80 plus campuses out of the 105 schools. And so a lot of my life was built around HBCUs. My mom went to Alcorn State. My dad went to Mississippi Valley. My brother at Valley. My son's at Prairie View. Most of my cousins went to Jackson State, cousins at Morehouse. And a lot of our life, I have two cousins that are professors at HBCUs, and they could be teaching anywhere in the world, and they chose to stay and add value to our youth. But one of the areas that, with all this going on, that I realized there's not a lot about business owners. There's not a lot about business ownership, and there's not a lot of conversation around what are we doing to help grow our businesses that are owned by HBCU graduates and alum. And not just helping them grow, but connecting them together, connecting them with each other. Through this journey, I was talking to someone last night. I had to go on a drive for something, but I was talking to someone, and he literally owns a company that does help people create pitch decks. And so I was sharing with him someone I met. He said, "Man, that's one of my mentors." So I had met him. But then there's another brother, a person I met out of North Carolina that has a company that's creating a social media company that makes it easy to get video references.
Yeah.
And so inquire about me. So it's a lot of vertical markets that he can be in. But so now here's one guy that raises money, and here's another guy that is actually out talking to VCs. So I've put those two guys together. What's going to happen? I don't know, but they wouldn't have known each other. And so that is something that I challenge people to really look at and, join us for the conference. Taria's put it in the feed, the complimentary tickets, compliments of Byron Riley CPA. And he does work nationally, even though he's in Houston. But, with that is we got this Wednesday, the 24th and 25th. day one is more conference style. We have two keynotes, Precious C. Williams, killer pitches for killer bitches. I'm not a killer bitch, but hey, I want to learn a killer pitch. Okay. I'm okay with that. So I'm excited about that. And then the Godfather later on in the day, the Godfather of networking, Dr. George C. Frazier, who's one of my mentors. So, I learned so much from that guy. He didn't go to college, but he had a corporate job at Procter & Gamble. So that tells you the knowledge and experience he has. And so literally, and then we have about 12 other trainers that are training in breakout sessions. And then on day two, we have what we call master classes. So our trainers are going deeper, spending about 75 minutes to hour and a half. And Taria is going to help you work on your calendar, your social media schedule and calendar. How do you systematically put it together? And then out of that, we have a business directory. You can go to hbcubiz.com and see the directory. We're beginning to populate that. It's up now, and we'll be communicating that. And then out of it, ongoing networking events. So bi-weekly networking events we'll be hosting, as well as what else? The Academy, which will be launched in April. So we're excited about that. And anthology. So there's a whole blueprint there. And then there are things that give backs to the universities, but also connectivity with the universities.
Yeah. And I absolutely love it, Howard. Like when you shared with me, and this is one of the things that I want like everyone to like really get. So the vision for HBCU Biz is something that when even Howard, how long would you say that we've known each other now? 5-6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5-6 years ago. Howard, expresses, his love for HBCUs and giving back, to the HBCU community, and knowing that he always had it like on his mind, right? The forefront working. And I remember when you did, what's the book you call that you have the Southern Greats.
Southern Greats.
Right. And we've done other initiatives, to help HBCUs to actually see 6 years later, the whole entire HBCU Biz platform that it's morphed into a directory for HBCU entrepreneurs and business owners to connect and do business, for each other as a community. And knowing that proceeds off of some of the things that you're doing are actually going back, to support HBCU universities, right? And colleges. It's huge. And so it ties back once again into the purpose and into the vision. And so even as we navigate, we do all these things, in life, and we do all these things in business, you have the why, right? And it's the thing that just keeps pulling you and tugging at you. And so that's what I want to actually leave you got my superstars with. If you have that thing that's tugging on you, it's pulling on you, right? Then you need to pay attention to that.
Well,
right?
Terrell, let me frame it this way, and this is how it worked for me, and it may be a little different for others. Is I remember when I started Southern Greats, which is an interview book where I interviewed 47 highly accomplished graduates of Southern University. And as I was going through that process, I said, okay, hey, what is this book like? And it's modeled after Think and Grow Rich, The Black Choice by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, which is in his 30th year now, believe it or not. I reached out to Dr. Kimbrough, and, he granted me an hour of his time in his office. And he shared one thing. He gave me 7 questions. But one is, he always said, whenever you're working on something, ask what else will be born out of this. That was a powerful question. And then as I look back through the journey, we talked about the Valley. A lot of those things that I did were my Valley moments, understanding interviews, but I enjoy them, understanding that road trips and conversations. Those were moments some were developed with my son. He had a chance to see and meet some of these people that other kids that are 12, 10, 13, they would be like, wow. But I've heard him talk about that recently, 8, 9 years later, Taria. And so those moments were worth it. He talked about going to church with Hall of Famer Aeneas Williams, being at the church, not knowing who he was until we showed up there, and Aeneas spending probably 30 minutes talking about him being an athlete and being a better person after church. And so it was those kind of things that were part of it. Then, failures, but not failures, learning curves, no BS required that we were part of that, where you really met Suzanne.
Yeah.
You knew who she was, but you guys got a chance to connect through that.
I talk about that all the time.
And so, and somebody said, well, Howard, that didn't work. No, I learned a whole lot.
Yeah.
I learned some things not to do, but I've used those skill sets in other parts that people have paid me for. And so your valley is really the place where those fruits grow that gives you the fuel for those big dreams. And so one of the things that happened, though, I want to tie this in real quick, is that we talked about purpose. And so you're going to continuously have dreams. And so those dreams that you're having, I want you to create that into a vision. Okay? See, the dreams come to you, things that are around it, but it's up to you to craft this dynamic growth vision, is what we call it. We want it to be vivid. We want it to be, and there's a book called Vivid Vision that talks about that. You want to be able to put details in it. So when I talk about my vision of HBCU Biz, I'm talking of a community of 100,000 business owners. 100,000 business owners that are seeing at least double-digit increase, okay? If you want to double your business, have a 25% increase 3 years, you double your business, period. And so when you think about that, that is that kind of community I want to have. When I look at my store, I've been there 20 plus years, but my real joy has been those 70 plus students that I've had a chance to impact, hire and mentor and have conversations with, crazy conversations. And Mr. White, you stupid. I say, okay, no, that's real. Okay. I tell them, and they understand this. I said, college is the only place you can be broke and have fun. Okay. When I see them now, 10, 15 years later, they was like, I wish I was still in college. But that is part of the vision of HBCU Biz. And then through the anthology, being able to share stories about HBCUpreneurs, as we call them, being able to connect with our living greats before they pass along and connect them back to their schools, have those conversations and understand, help the next generation to see why HBCUs are still relevant today and still important today. That is, gosh, that will be my legacy. Noreen, when I look at it at the end of the day, I want my son to say, hey, my dad gave me what I needed, not what I wanted. I want my wife to say he was there. No matter how busy he was, he would pause for me, sometimes without me even asking. He did it just because. But then what's the rest of the legacy? What's the world? And I'll close in this, one of my most powerful moments. My mom always told me I should have been a teacher. I should always be teaching. And she told me this in college, and I call it my brown couch moment, because we were sitting on her couch, sitting on my parents' couch, and literally about 2 years ago now, she said to me, son, I'm glad you're teaching now. And so your dreams, your purpose can manifest in different ways. It doesn't have to be a traditional format. So for me, teaching was not being in a classroom. Teaching for me was being in a conference room. Teaching for me was being with a group of students in my office. So that is what we, are familiar with. That is what I'm doing, and I can remember I was talking to some customers in my store last year, and a student said something or did something. And I said, 1 second. And so I showed him why I suggested he do this and to look at different things. Fast forward, student was here at my house Sunday, and I asked him about his classes. He said, the classes I'm taking, I learned a lot of that from you last year. And so, that is my purpose in life. So, Noreen, I want to challenge you to continue to seek that purpose and then begin to live that purpose, and then just develop those daily habits to do it and enjoy that journey. But that's what, HBCU Biz is about. So, hey, inside the link in the chat are complimentary tickets. You can always reach out to me directly. I'm glued to a monitor or a phone for this next season as we create these virtual events. So we are here, and then Taria can always get a hold of me.
Oh, yeah. So Yeah, superstars, if you guys are even catching this on the replay and you want to have complimentary tickets to share with your network, just go ahead and inbox me and I'll make sure that you get the link as well. So, Howard, it's been so amazing sitting down with you this morning. Thank you for taking the time and blessing myself, blessing my superstars with your wealth of knowledge. I can't wait for the HBCU Biz Conference coming up next week. Once again, that's March 24th and March 25th. I think the link is on the screen. Thank you for the opportunity for having myself and Suzanne host one of the master classes, as well. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Looking forward to great things. Okay. So I'm just going to hit. I know you have an engagement and I'm getting ready for the webinar as well. But thank you once again. It's always amazing when I have the opportunity to sit down with you. So
let me say this as I say this to your community and your family is, the key thing is serve. And Muhammad Ali said it. I first heard it say, service is the rent that we pay for our existence here on earth. And when you serve unselfishly, guess what? You will shine. So get out and serve so you can shine. And that is the best way to shine. So we'll leave it at that.
All right. I love it. All right. So superstars, take care until next time.